There we go. That's why you couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now? Happy New Year. I'll start again. Happy New Year. Oh, can you hear me now? You should be able to because I'm all plugged in. I'm going to wait for the okay. Oh, everyone's saying no sound. Yep, that should be sound. Is that plugged in? It should be sound. No sound. Yes, you can hear me now. Good. Now you can hear me now. All right. It's a bit of a delay. Happy New Year, everybody. I had my microphone going in the wrong thing. It is pouring with rain. I thought for a minute you couldn't hear me because the rain is so heavy on the roof. It is tumbling out of the sky just for a change. It's been raining again continuously for about 10 days. Maybe 1 day or 2 days we had off in that time. Oh, it's crazy. Anyway, we're back and it's a brand new year and it's real knitting weather. Down here in New Zealand, or at least where I am, it is knitting weather because it's not terribly summery. Not that that puts anyone off, right? It's not terribly summery. I've got a hair in my eye. But it's absolutely pouring with rain. And so we just want to curl up and knit. That's all we want to do. And Terry says they're having awesome sunny weather down south. Terry, I think I'm going to come down there. The more and more I hear about it down south, the more I think maybe we should move south. But anyway, it's pouring with rain here. We had a beautiful summer over Christmas and Christmas and Boxing Day and those sorts of days. It was stunning, absolutely beautiful. And then New Year came and boom, down came the rain. Anyway, enough with the weather. I hope you're all well. I hope 2023 is looking like it might be interesting for you. Like there might be some good knitting and making and creating and invigorating things on the horizon. It's funny. I'm just used to it being summery now. So it's a funny thing before we start. Right. Can you sort out the rain before I come over at the end of January again? I'll try. I'll really try. My kids are like, is it actually going to be sunny this summer? I don't know. I really just don't know. It might just be raining the whole summer. And it's not even like it's that warm. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things because I managed to have a little bit of a break, which was really, really nice over the Christmas break. And I potted around and I cleaned out my linen cupboard and I sorted out cupboards in the hall and I tidied up things and I felt really good. I managed to do quite a bit of organizing and just homemaking, which I have always loved homemaking, and I will continue to love that. So I did a lot of homemaking over the Christmas period, and Mr. Myrtle's parents were here and they ended up staying quite a long time, which was really nice. So we had a lovely time, lots of family things, and I did some knitting. And I did some knitting that wasn't like deadline knitting. I finished some whips. Well, actually, no. That's not entirely true. I finished a whip, and then I also got another one out of the bag. So I thought I'd show you what I've done. Some of you will be amazed, absolutely amazed at what I've managed to do. So you'll remember that I cast on this one, 3 years ago, maybe. I cast this one a long time ago, not quite 3 years, be about 2.5 years ago. I cast on a second maiden, and I cast it on for my daughter, who then decided it wasn't really her thing. And so I decided to keep it for myself. So fortunately, we're a similar size in the shoulders. She's a bigger bust. So I just left out the bust darts that I was going to do, just carried on and did the jumper. So I finished it and it's even blocked and it's ready for me to wear. It's not quite cool enough for me to wear it right now. But honestly, if this continues, I'll be wearing it. It's so long ago that I started it. Exactly. So the original maiden, I thought I'd show you. The original maiden is this one. And I made it in that beautiful blacker linen Falkland Island Merino blend, 50-50 blend. And it has the color work on the cuffs and then it had that turned up hem. So that was the original. It's a little bit scrumpled, but that's the original one. And I have worn that. I wear it a lot, that jumper. So I made another one in a merino and I used scraps for the neck. I'll talk to you about the yarn in a second. But what I did was I ended up just doing plain twisted rib for the cuffs. And I did do a high-low hem, but I made this jumper quite a bit longer. It's quite a long line. And I did the high-low hem on it, which I'm not I'm going to see how I go when when it's more wintry and I'm wearing it with longer, I've got trousers on today, but when I'm wearing it with tight jeans and I just want to be cozy and I want it to hang on my bum, and I'll see how I feel about it. But I haven't put it out of the question that I might bring it up and maybe not have the tail. We'll see. But at the moment, it's good. So I love, love, love the color. So what I decided to do at the time, I've got that much left. It's probably enough left to make a little hat, actually, or at least I could put it in a shawl. It's the most stunning color. And the yarn is this one. It's Wishbone Flax Flower. Now, she's a South African dyer. It's a 90% merino, 10% linen, and it's a single spun. So it hasn't got any. It's a single, so it hasn't got a lot of. It's got a reasonable amount of twist in this single. I think it'll actually hold up okay to wear and tear, but it's just beautiful, and you can see all the white flecks through it. That's the linen. These little white flecky bits. That's the linen that comes through it. It's so soft. And the colorway that I've got is Leaf Masala. That's the back. Leaf Masala. Wishbone. I hopefully that's around the right way for you. It's back to front for me. It might be. Anyway, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So I'm really looking forward to wearing that. So I finished it finally. I really had nothing to do. I had hardly anything to do. I had to do the hem. I had to do the cuffs. I did the high-low hem. I just sort of finished off the body, tried it on. I wove in all my ends at the top. I should have shown you a before and after, actually. But that's where I've woven in my ends. So you can't really see. I do a little trick in it with the jog where we slip stitches. So it looks like a bit of a dog's breakfast when you're finished. But once you've woven all your ends in, actually it looks kind of neat. So I'm quite pleased with the finish of it. But yes, so I finished it. Yay, I've frozen, have I? Let me just see. Have I frozen? Still frozen? Or is it at your end? I'm going to say to Mr. Myrtle, I might have frozen. He fixed things with my computer over the holidays. He dug trenches and things. We'll see if I'm frozen. Anyway, that was one of the things that I did. So I finished off my maiden. So my second maiden. So I'm really looking forward to, oh no, I'm not. Okay. I've really looking forward to, okay, I'm going to tell him. He'll be running out in the rain. Okay. I better say, oh no. Okay. Okay. Oh, flip. I've just written that 100 times wrong. Yeah, so I'm so pleased to have that finished. It does feel really good to finish things, doesn't it? What I did was I got my whips out and I had about, well, not including the thing I'm knitting right now, which is different. I'm not going to show you because that's for Wardrobe Toolbox. And I had 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I had 5 things that I had sort of narrowed it down to that were actually in progress that I wanted to finish. Well, I wasn't sure about finishing. I thought I wanted to finish, so I wanted to double check in. And 3 of those were socks. And so I went through the socks, and actually they can all wait. I decided not to tackle any of the socks. They can all wait. One of them is a pair that I've knitted one sock for Mr. Myrtle, and I need to work out how to do the second one. I've done, there's 2 like that, really. And then there's a third sock, which I've started and I want to do an afterthought heel. Those have honestly been around for so many years, it's not funny. So I've just ignored those. I'm going to pretend like those don't really exist. But I'll sip my tea. But I wanted to finish that one. And the other one I really wanted to finish is this one. And I was unsure whether I was going to finish it because I just didn't know if it was going to fit me and how it would look. But I tried it on. I put it all on some, cable things, and I tried it on and it looks great. And so I'm definitely going to finish it. I'm really pleased. I thought maybe I'd got a bit bigger than when I made it, but no, seems all right. Anyway, this one is from the Pacifico collection. So it's not actually one of mine. It's Marie Green's from the Pacifico collection. I printed out a picture so you could see. It's tricky to see in that yarn, but the patterning finishes here. And it's just this nice fitting, easy to wear. I know quite a lot of you have made it after we put out Pacifico. Easy to wear pattern. And so you can see the patterning on mine more clearly. And I've got this far. Like I had got this far. It got quite far. And what I've done is I've just started to pick up a sleeve. So I put it all on cables and I tried it on. I knew that I'd done something around here to change the shaping and the length. And fortunately, I'd done both sides because I would have had to work out what it was. And I tried it on and I thought, oh yeah, actually that looks quite good. So I think I'll finish it. I did wear Marie's when we were away, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. I'll have to decide whether I want to do the neckband that high. I may not. I'll figure out when I get there how high I want to do it. But it's just a lovely little raglan. I've just stopped doing the length for now. It's kind of got to the stage where I might be finished with the length. But what I'm going to do, because I'm limited with yarn, I thought maybe there was another ball, but there isn't. So I've got that much yarn left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do both the sleeves, and I'm actually going to do them like this. And I'm only going to do them to my elbow because I have so enjoyed wearing this top that only goes to my elbow that I need more. I need another one. This type of weather, in between weather, these tops are so good to wear. So I'm going to, just that length of sleeve, I love it. So I'm going to do that length of sleeve, and actually that should help me out with the yardage. So I've picked up around the sleeve, and because I've changed the sleeve, and I've changed the amount in the sleeve, I think, I've got to the point where I've knitted a couple of inches under the arm, or I almost have. And now I'm going to just work out my own decreases. So I'll just take it to my elbow, and then it'll be done on one side, and then I'll do the other side. And then I'll just come back and work out, okay, I might do the neck next, and then I'll do the length. And whatever I have left, I'll put into the length, because it can be reasonably cropped, I think, this one. So it is called Coquille, and it's a Marie Green pattern, green with no E. It's just Marie Green. And it was one of the ones she did with our Pacifico collection, and I absolutely loved it. Love it. So I started it ages ago as well, and I used Vintage Pearls sock. I just had this on my stash. Vintage Pearls. She's a New Zealand dyer. She's based in the South Island in Dunedin. Vintage Pearls, and I use sock, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And this is actually a limited edition color. It's called Hunter's Moon. So that's her. And this is Hunter's Moon. It really is a beautiful blue. Absolutely beautiful. Blue, green, gray, all of those colors. It really lends itself to. So I love the color. And at the time, I did quite a bit of changes because, well, actually, I didn't tell you about this one too. The same with that one. I didn't get gauge. I didn't get gauge with this one at all. On the needles I wanted to knit it on, in that yarn. So I ended up using, I knitted a 3.5 at a different gauge, and I ended up making a pattern a size too big for me technically, so that it would be smaller. So I did actually end up fiddling around with that. And for this one, I couldn't get gauge at the needle size that Marie used. She used a 3.25. I couldn't get gauge at that. And when I picked up my pattern, I have it in my bag. I love this bag. Here, I have it in my bag, and that was it. That was all that was in the bag. Didn't even have any needles. I had to put needles into it. I just had left it like that in my bag. Nothing. I had swatches, had 2 swatches, and I had nothing. No notes, no nothing at all. Some stitch markers. It's a rather nice stitch marker, actually. These are my favorite stitch markers. Don't know if you've seen those. I don't know if they still do them. Hani Hooley was making these little stitch markers. They're glass. They're blown glass. They are my favorite stitch markers. Anyway, I just found it in the bag with no needles, no nothing, no paper, no nothing at all. And I thought, oh, flip. What needles was I using? I can remember there was some issue with the needles. I can remember I changed needles to get gauge or something. So I couldn't remember what they were. I keep the pattern, or at least I keep a notebook. All of those things were gone. I suspect what happened was I took them out. I think actually saying that, maybe it's in my little yellow notebook, but I think perhaps what I did for a podcast or wardrobe toolbox or something, I probably grabbed the notebook, put it together with some other notebooks to show you how I use notebooks in my project bag so that I can keep notes of what I'm doing. I bet that's what I did. And then I never put it back. I bet that's what I did. Anyway, no notebook, no nothing. So I thought, oh, well, I've definitely talked about it on a podcast. I'll go and have a look on a podcast because I will have said something to you about it. Do you think I could find the podcast? No, I couldn't find anything. I found one photo of me casting it on, and I posted that on the Hangout and on my Facebook page. And I said to you guys the other day, I found this one photo. I know I used different needles. I'm thinking it was a 3.5 that I ended up using because the pattern calls for a 3.25. That's unusual for me to use for a fingering. And I think it's a 3.5 that I use, but to be honest, it's been years since I picked it up. So I probably should just swatch again, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to carry on. So I said, does anyone remember what gauge? I just grabbed a 3.5. I'm just grabbing a 3.5 and I'm just going to go for it. But I'm knitting and I'm thinking, maybe it's the 3.75. I couldn't remember anyway, because I've picked up and I've started knitting and you can't tell, but I'm just wondering if it looks slightly different, but I don't think so. I think it's just my eyes. And anyway, one lovely person found the podcast that I actually talked about what needles. I don't know how you found it because I don't know how to search like that on Facebook. I'm obviously technologically just have problems when it comes to Facebook and searching. But anyway, then several people helped out and they found posts that I'd done and podcasts that I'd done and all of these things where I talked about it. So it is that. And apparently I did use a 3.5. So that was good. So it was all good in the end. How comforting is it that Libby has a hard time getting gauge? Okay, so the thing is, normally I do the gauge, right? When I'm knitting, normally if I'm knitting for my own patterns, I determine gauge. So I don't usually have a problem getting gauge because the gauge is my gauge. But where I knitted this one in a different yarn and I couldn't get the same gauge because this first one I used is really more of a sport weight. And when I picked up the softer merino fingering, which is a totally different yardage, I couldn't get the same gauge. So I just did my maths and I made my maths work so I could knit the pattern. And then this one, it was just way too tight. When I did it on the smaller needle, it was just way too tight. Do you think I can tell? Yeah, I can tell on that one. So I did one of my swatches and it was too small. And I think I just wanted gauge and also it looked wrong. And so I went up a needle size and I did it again and I get a bit more spring in it as well. And I like my knits to be movable. I like to be able to actually move when I'm wearing them. So I do tend to go for a gauge that's not too tight, but not too loose. Because if they're too loose, then I find they don't last as well. So I am a little bit of a middle of the road person when it comes to gauge. I should do some patterns with some super open gauge, I think, because that seems to be all the rage and it does look nice, but I do like things to last. So anyway, so that was that really. I am now on sleeves and I'm actually on sleeves for a couple of things at the same time. So it's Sleeve Island over here, all the sleeves. And I was thinking about ways. Someone wrote to me, would they write in the comments or someone wrote and said, or was I talking to someone? And they said, I was talking to someone and they said, sleeves, I just get sick of doing sleeves or I can't be doing the sleeves. They just go on forever. And I thought, it's been a long time since I thought that about sleeves. I used to think that about sleeves. I used to think, flip the sleeves. They're just, Sleeve Island, that whole idea that you just got to get through the sleeves. Now, these are going to be shorter, but I thought it's been a long time. And I think I've talked to you before about these needles that I use. Some of you will be new. But I use these little ChiaoGoo needles, which are fixed circulars, and they have a little bend in them. And I love those for sleeves. Some people I know like to go up a needle size when they're using them because they find they get a bit tighter. But look, I have all of these. I keep them in my little case. I have all of these different sleeve needles for different sizes. I have some that are the same. And I have a few more that are in things. But they are fixed circulars. They're from ChiaoGoo. And they have a little kink in the arm and very short tips. And it did take me a wee while to get used to them. I just had to practice. And I went from a 5-inch tip to a 4-inch tip for my general knitting. And then I went to this tiny, tiny, tiny little tip. But now they are so fast, you guys. They are so fast. And I just belt through my sleeves with these. I quite like knitting sleeves now. I've got these fun little needles. So I've got those. And then the other thing that you could do if you didn't want to invest in a whole lot of short circulars and you wanted to make something that was a little more useful for a range of lengths of cable, are these. And those are the little ChiaoGoo. I think I might get some of these to stock in my shop, because I've got a shop now that I can sell you things that with the yarn. Speaking of which, the yarn is all here ready to go. There's a few that are low, but if you want more wool, it's a good time to be getting wool to get ready for winter if you're down here, or to grab some for your winter if you're up north. Anyway, these ChiaoGoo needles are a little set, and I'll show you. I've got a couple of these sets. This is the small, this is the medium set, I think. And they have all these little needle tips in them. This one ranges from 3.5 up to 5. This would be my garment set, really, because that's generally I knitting in this range. And they have little shorties. I'll show you the little shorties. I can get one out easy enough. And they have long ones. So they have a little long needle like that, 3-inch, and then they have a 2-inch tip like that. See the difference? So if you compare that to the one on my needle, for the ChiaoGoo, that's a 2-inch tip on my needle. Well, actually, yeah, it's a 2-inch tip. Well, it's a 3-inch with a bend, really, but it's got, it's about a 2-inch tip. So I don't like having those on both ends, though, unless I've got that little kink in the needle. I find it really uncomfortable. So when I'm doing, when I'm knitting small circumferences with these needles, I use a long one and a short one. And then I adjust the circular, thing that goes inside. I'll adjust the cable that goes inside, because you can get long cables and you can get short cables. So I'll pick a shorter cable and I'll choose one longer needle and one short needle. I have exclusively gone over these for my socks now. And I have another set, which is red, which is just those teeny tiny little sock needles. But you can get longer cables. So if you want to make the most of having these short needles and use them for your sleeves, but actually use them for other projects, this would be quite a good option, because you could grab some other cables that make really long cables in the middle. So it's just a thought. I thought that would be quite good for you. I don't have them in my shop at the moment, but you can get them all around the place. But I thought maybe I should stock some so that I can talk to you a bit more about them. And when you email me and ask, I can recommend what I think, what would work for you. So I can help you out. Yeah, those minis are fabulous. And someone couldn't get on with them. Well, I couldn't unless I had do you mean, I don't know which ones you mean you couldn't get on with, but those short ones, I couldn't get on unless I had a long and a short. But these ones, my hands are used to them now. But when I first started, it was most unusual. I found it most weird to knit with them. But I did already make a change, because I'd already started with these long tips, 5-inch tips, and then I had slowly moved to 4-inch tips, which I actually are my favorite now. These 4-inch tips for my general knitting, I find those really good. But that was a change. That was a real shift for me to make that change. And then from there, it got smaller and then smaller. But I do have to jiggle them around to make them feel good for me. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the needles, but it's fun. And I think when you figure out a system for your sleeves, some people do 2 sleeves at a time. That would definitely speed things up. I could do that. And other people, I don't know, you can put markers in as you're going down. I think that might help make you feel like you're getting somewhere, and then you're getting to the next marker and you just keep working to the next marker. I find that quite helpful too. I don't do that, but that counting towards between decreases, that whole checking things off, that whole idea is quite good. You're going to finish them, gingerbread and wafer. You're going to finish them for winter. Oh, excellent, Tamsin, that's really good. A card trip is really good for doing sleeves. A card trip is really good for doing knitting, isn't it? Just to belt out some stuff, to do a body, and sleeves is true, because you can get a lot done and you don't have to think about it. You just get going. ChiaoGoo bendies. Oh, that's a good name for them. You love those for sleeves. It'd be great if I sold the little slinky sleeve needles. Yeah, I think I will, because those are a game changer for me. So I've contacted them actually. So I will find out about stocking those. I want to inject a bit of more fun into my shop this year, the stuff that I can sell you. I've got some ideas of things, so we will work at that as the year goes on. what length are the cables on the the little bendy ones with the sleeve? That is about, I think it's a 9-inch cable that goes on this, I'd say. Actually, I don't know, and I want to measure it, but that's about 4 inches. Might be a 6-inch cable. ChiaoGoo measure funny. Like, other people measure funny. Everyone measures differently. They measure from tip to tip, I think, and they're bigger needle than this. That if you have the interchangeables and then you add in a cable on the normal needles is 16 inches, and that's perfect for a hat. This would be good for a baby hat or a very small hat, but they're great for sleeves. But those 16-inch cables, I'm pretty sure they count them from tip to tip. I actually did a blog post on this years ago, so if you hop over to my blog and have a little look, you'll see I did a blog post and I went through the different needle types and how they measure them, and then it makes more sense. It gets really confusing with all the different lengths. Hi, I think you knitted a second dirty lace in my 5-ply. What changes did you make to get it out of less yardage? I actually didn't. Claire knitted it for me, and she ended up using a little bit more of one ball. So I can't remember off the top of my head. I know I've written it down. It's written down over there. But so she ended up just getting a little bit more of one of the balls, Joanne. So that it just tipped over into the next thing. But then Claire and I have slightly different gauge as well. So she's a little bit tighter than I am. So I would be inclined to get, I think it was, actually, I'll have to come back to you. I'll have to come back to you and let you know. I'll do a post about it so you can see exactly what we did for that. But I remember one of the colors she used a little bit extra. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been A, but I can't remember. But I can find out and I'll let you know, Joanne. In fact, if Claire hears, I might ask Claire to let you know too. What cable length do you generally use for sleeves? Right, so if I'm going to swap it out with that, I would go for, so you could vary, couldn't you? Because the top of your sleeve and the bottom of the sleeve, if you get a chance to have a difference, then you could change as you go along. So this little pack here, it has 2 of these little short cables, teeny tiny. That is perfect for socks when you're doing a long needle and a short needle. But that one, the other one they've got, would be good for the longer sleeves at the top. You can see there's a difference in length between those two. There's that much difference, which is about 3 inches length difference. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 inches is about the length of the smaller cable, and 6 inches will be the length of the longer cable. That's my guess for this. And then I like to add the long and the short needle on. So in that case, I choose this needle. But you would, just depending on the size of sleeve you did, how many stitches have you got on that sleeve and what's the circumference of the sleeve, you could change those up. And it's really be easy to change those up. I find the other ones that I have on my sleeve, I find they're good for pretty much all the sleeves I knit. So DK, Aran, fingering, lace weight, I think they can get a little, well, actually it's okay as once you get to the cuff though. If you've got quite a fine cuff, then you might want to just go down and just everything gets a little bit more squished up. But most of the sleeve, they're fine. I love the 12-inch fixed and the 16-inch fixed. Also have the bend, which I use for the tops of the sleeve. Stepping it down part way really helps my hands. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad that you've got a system. We've got a masterclass this month in Wardrobe Toolbox all about small circumference knitting, which I think will be absolutely fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. Just for relieving hand pain and managing those little circumferences. I think you're going to really love that. Markers work really well. It helps keep on track for the second sleeve. Yeah. You're on your morning work. It's a bit tricky to knit at the same time. Do you know, it was funny because all those years ago when I went to Knit Nation 2010, after my 4th baby was born, and that was one of the things that struck me when I was there. I hadn't been in the modern knitting world. I had been knitting nonstop for my babies and my toddlers. And by that time, you know, my eldest was 5 and my youngest was a baby. She was just newly born. And I had knitted nonstop for them since I was pregnant with my eldest. So, you know, getting on for 6 years. And I hadn't knitted anything in the round and I hadn't used circular needles, nothing. It was 2010. I think I had just discovered Ravelry. Someone had put me onto Ravelry, and I just discovered that there was a world out there of knitting, but it had really just started to take off in the time when I was up to my eyeballs with new children, babies and pregnancy and more new babies and all of that stuff. So I didn't ever go on the internet. I just never went on the computer. I didn't. It wasn't a part of my life. We didn't have smartphones. I didn't even have a phone. I don't even think I had a dumb phone. I might have had one. I don't remember when I got one, but I just lived without all of that stuff, and that I actually prefer that. I prefer that life. But anyway, we've got the computers now. That's just how it is. Anyway, so I was completely like in the dark about all of these things. And one of the things that struck me when I went into that festival, which was a huge festival in London, it was the second one. There must have been one the year after. I don't remember now. I think like I went twice, but it must have been there must have been a third. I can't remember. Anyway, that was the first one. And people were walking around knitting. And I just couldn't believe that. They were actually walking around knitting. Now, I had breastfed and knit for years. That was how I did it, because I had to knit round babies' heads as they were feeding, and I would just knit. But I had long needles. So you always poke them a little bit. But I'd done that. So I was pretty okay with knitting in all sorts of places. But walking around and knitting, that just blew my mind. I could not believe it. And I saw cable needles. And so these cable needles were, the whole day was just such a pivotal moment in my life, because there was just this unapologetic passion for making. I don't think I'd really come across so many people with such an unapologetic passion for making, and in particular knitting. Blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I just thought, where have you people been? Well, of course, they hadn't even been born, most of them. So many of them were so young. But actually, there were a lot of people my age as well, and older. But these women walking around knitting with these little circular needles, and they had yarn and pouches or bags or something. And I think they must have had project bags on their arms and walking around knitting. Absolutely blew my mind. So yes, morning walks and knitting. It is tricky, but it is doable. They call that a 12-inch. Do they? The kinky one. 12-inch, that's right, they do too. I get confused all the numbers. Teagus measure the interchangeable needles as length of their own. So your overall length is 8 or 10 inches, depending on if you use 4 or 5-inch tips. Yeah, I thought that was the case. So they go from tip to tip. Oh, a length of their own. Oh, no, sorry. It was the opposite of what I thought then. Yes, so they have different length tips. So they measure the cables. All right, great. Thank you. Are the fixed ones on my sleeve? Yes, these are fixed. These ones I'm using right now, this is what I tend to use. They're fixed circulars. So I don't ever change them. It's a beautiful, smooth join. I never have any problems with it at all. I don't have to worry about winding them in. I actually don't. These are the only fixed circulars I have. I don't have fixed circulars. I like the flexibility of interchangeables, but these are so smooth. I mean, I don't have many problems with ChiaoGoo anyway, unless I haven't tightened things up, but properly. But these are lovely. I really like them. Although I have been having a little bash with a couple of others. I've bought some Leica needles because I thought, I wouldn't mind having a go with some others and just seeing what's out there again, because things change, don't they? And it's been years and years since I've been completely using ChiaoGoo. So I'll just see. I'd like a set of wood that I really love as well. And I know ChiaoGoo do wood, but I don't know. I think I've been trying some Leica ones to see what I think of those. Crazy sock lady knits on a treadmill. Are there? There probably are. I don't know if I knit on a treadmill, because that are just asking for trouble. For me, that would be asking for trouble. I think me and treadmills have never got on all of that well. So I think that if I tried to knit on a treadmill, I think it'll just end in hilarity and potentially injury, actually. But, I'm always up for a bit of a laugh, so maybe it'll be interesting. But yes. Well, it was absolutely lovely to see you all this morning, and we're back into a new year. I have very high hopes for this year. I feel like, I don't know, I just thought, yeah, this will be an interesting year. I think it's going to be an interesting year. And I think that I feel like making the most of it, whatever it brings. That's the mood I'm in. Let's make the most of it. So we're going to have lots of fun with our knitting. I've got some fabulous ideas for you this year for knitting. So I'm hoping that we will escape into this corner of the world. We'll leave all of the other stuff behind for a moment. We can come in here and we can make beautiful things and we can enjoy beautiful things and we can just, I don't know, this whole idea of just this meditative craft that we all enjoy. Well, we more than enjoy it though, don't we? We need it. The meditative craft that we actually need, the knitting lifestyles that we have. So let's make the most of it. That's what I reckon for 2023. We're going to go for it. So I will see you next week. We're back on every Thursday now. So I will see you next week for another chat. I am promising to you, and I don't ever promise. I say to my children, I never promise, but I am promising to you, because when I promise, I'm going to do it. I'm going to change the backdrop. It's going to be tidied, cleaned, sorted, shaken, reorganized, and it'll look lovely. You're going to have a different backdrop next week. I've made that commitment, and I will see you then. All right, everybody. See you later. Bye.